Okay, let's see what we have on. Okay, hi everyone. Let's wait a minute or two for others to join. Okay, yeah, I think we can start. Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Um, I'm really excited to make the first webinar in our new webinar series. Excited also to have my friend here, Satya.
Hey,
Yeah, say hi. So I'm taking the call from Israel, from Tel Aviv. Satya taking the call from your home.
yeah, I'm from Seattle, West Coast,
Yeah.
USA.
Yeah. So everyone in the chat, if you want, you'll feel free, to write us where you're taking the call from. So without further ado, I think we can, jump to what we came for today. So today we're going to talk about an extensive research we did here in Pynt regarding comparison with Pynt top 10 alongside OWASP top 10, and try to validate the current state of OWASP API top 10, how it's accurate, how it's really relate to what's going on today to the actual data. Um, I have to say, and the title is a bit like a bombarding, like Pine versus OWASP, but obviously, we really appreciate OWASP, and OWASP is one of the great organizations we have today in application security that became really a go-to standard in our ecosystem. So we are also friends with OWASP, but we challenge in a bit the way we treat API security, but only for the sake of having a better security and a nice discussion around it. Okay, so a bit about myself. My name is Tzvika Shneider. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Pynt. Doing R&D, product security since I remember, but more officially than since 2005. Love to play different music. Love to sing in karaoke, and I always love to say like bottom up sec, which is kind of a combination of a bottom up PLG and upsec, and this is us, like a movement we're trying to promote of that, security start from bottom up. Um, Satya, you want to present yourself?
Yeah, hey, my name is Satya. So I have been with the security industry for the 15 years, and I really like travel. So because travel for me is just kind of when you get to know about the new culture, new people, so that actually widens your perspective. So and I think that I learn a lot from the travel. So
Great, great. Uh, um, so maybe without further ado, we'll start, with our agenda today. So first, let's discuss really shortly the problem space. So everybody, talks about API security, knows of API security, but I thought maybe we should have some kind of summary of the problem space today. So API became really the number one attack surface today. Um, and it's not just in case, right? So APIs are everywhere. Since the world running software today exposed by APIs, and we can really see from technical and business perspective, why API are growing. From the technical perspective, so the move to shift from monolith development to microservices development, actually really boosting that, as well as business. Because in the end, our purpose in our business is to explore the services, and there are a lot of regulations regarding healthcare, fire, um, banking, PSD2, that really requires everything to be an API. So this is why it became really crucial. And there's no, and not just in case, that APIs today are the number one attack surface, and we can see every other week vulnerability of APIs being published. And I think the main idea here that alongside us in the cybersecurity ecosystem, most of the cybersecurity attacks go under the radar. So that's just the things that we actually know. So with that today, API became very very popular, and therefore a big problem to organization today. You want to add anything to that, Satya?
No, I think you're right. So because of that, the transition from monolithic to microservices, so and API is kind of another a key component there, right? So you can't imagine an application they're not using API, right? If you're then using API, so there is a concern, right? So yeah,
Yeah. By the way, all of us that are now joined us in the chat, feel free to add comments, ask questions. Our team was already right now in the chat and are available to answer you for any question about the domain, about Pynt, about the problem space. So please free and let's make it interactive as possible. So I think the main point of discussion today in main organizations, so everybody talk about APIs, but let's talk about what's really done today. So how most organization address the actual massive rise in API vulnerabilities today. So
yeah.
Satya, give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is a actually complex topic, right? There is no way that no we can come up with a solution in 5 minutes, but I will try to kind of go through a holistic approach of how, and that I'd say the strategy to protect the APIs, right? So you kind of think about this in the three different domains, right? So the first I would call the continuous discovery of the API, because APIs you will see that kind of the your development team, they're just kind of coming up with the new APIs, right? No, it's quickly, right? Having a continuous discovery method is very important. So I think so you can, and also you should standardize your API infrastructure, like the like gateways, right now, because you are not allowing developer to come up with the unique method to spin up a API endpoint, right? So standardizing that is very important, else you'll just kind of chasing your own tail with new APIs every day. And also by when you'll standardize that infrastructure, you can implement security standards, API security standards, and that will just kind of increase your API security posture right now by default, so that you are not making some silly mistakes that is exposing that kind of the data or any kind of another or infrastructure. So and also you should kind of tracking what kind of data you are sending through that API, that is the data expose, is it a PHI, PCI, or so that you can implement certain standards, right, based on the data type they're kind of the passing. And the second stage, I would say, though, you should have a continuous testing for your kind of the APIs development. So it could be the static way, like the code scanning and some other things, and also you should have a dynamic testing, because if you think about the top 10 of the APIs, you will see the authentication and authorization level kind of vulnerabilities more, right? And I don't think you can find those through a static scanning. Right now you should have a dynamic scanning with the manual testing, right now actually doing the real-time attack methodologies, right? And that is kind of during your development phase. But when the APIs are in production, you should have something, the runtime production to automatically detect the API attacks or any kind of the business attacks. And I think there's a lot of API abuse as well, API abuse or data exploitation, right? So
Mhm.
so yeah, I think that is a holistic approach, how you can uh, and how you can actually come up with a strategy for your organization. I think each area I mentioned, that will be a 1 hour kind of webinar right now. Maybe we'll do someday later, but that's how I would kind of strategize um, API security for your organization.
Yeah, I agree. As you just mentioned, a few stages for that security. So I think, we become into a stage that we need to be agile also with our security implementation today. It doesn't, mean like you need to implement them, a bit here, a bit here, a bit here versus, just the one thing. So I agree. It's needed an holistic approach, and we cannot cover it obviously in what talk. But I definitely agree with the way you structured it. From right to left, the way you want to understand how API behaves and the actual main pain that which APIs I even have. Which is also a big pain, and ending with obviously making sure you deliver secure APIs by adding those mechanisms already in the development process. So let's talk about a bit of our research. What we did in Pynt. So we scanned almost up to today, almost like up around 10,000, 7,000 plus vulnerabilities that we found. We found it from more than 100K unique endpoints. Um, and the data that we're showing is really based on real traffic, on real users input, and we can see that the popularity of the vulnerabilities detected is a bit different than what we thought classically. So I'm going to mention maybe a few. uh, I think the most interesting one, and we'll talk later, is like the injection. Injection, is something that we had used to have around in the 90s, but it still exists and it's very much there. And surprisingly enough, the first one is the security misconfiguration, um, which is easy to solve, but it just throwing a bit the responsibility of doing the validation like as a the hot potato between the different teams. So um, we in our research we review each and one and we explain. I don't want to take everyone's time today. Just want to emphasize that this is global data in more than 80 different countries. So the issues that we present and the results are really like a global problem. And and it's kind of almost aligned with what we think, but with a bit differentiation from OWASP. So it's important also to understand the way we work and the way we collect that information and the way we act as Pint. What is the methodology? So our methodology in Pint is to do an active testing. It means that first we analyze the API traffic, we understand it, we learn it, we build an API anatomy of what we learned of the app. With that context, we build the actual API attacks, and with that, we take in all the attacks, we generate them, we start to play them, and the next attack is also based on dynamically on that specific last attack before the server's response, which gives us really two main things. One, we understand the technologies and the potential issues before we start, and second, we focused on that, which make us be very accurate on the one hand, on the other hand very fast. So um, in the end, the way we tested is not issues that found in runtime production. And we think those issues really, the one we did in our research really exist because they are based on active testing, proactive testing we did. And what you see is what you get. So all the issues are here because we didn't do detection offline, like really doing active security testing.
Yeah, so I think what you were saying that the WASP top tens are based on the institutional knowledge of the working group versus find score is more on that kind of the active attacks that or the data from the different countries that you saw, and then you start try to rank those, and so that is kind of no more like real data versus the institutional knowledge of the working group. Is that my correct assumption?
Yeah, yeah, is very accurate. um it's accurate, the way OWASP did the methodology and collected the data more for run tables and best practices, which is very crucial, very important. Um, but when you go a bit, into the actual details, and okay, what do I need to do tomorrow? So I understand I have a good baseline, but what do I need to do tomorrow? So when you look on the actual reality, so we see we have few main differences in the way we see the actual hot issues in API security today. So the first one is really the absence of injection attacks from OWASP. So OWASP decided to leave it only in the generic OWASP top 10 and remove it from the API. We think it's a mistake because as an AP, as a a, as a security architect, if let's say if I want to implement, or CISO, if I want to implement an API security strategy, so I'm looking on OS top 10 on the API, and I don't see injection there. But when you look on reality, so injection are the second most popular, and obviously they have huge impact. So I would say that we thought like in 2024 we're not going to see a lot of injection. That issue that started around from the 90s, um, but it's still there and big time. And the second thing I think that we found like it's very if I can summarize the second thing, that OWASP is more on the very high level and baseline and not detailed. So the stuff is broken is not enough. Everything is like in the broken umbrella. We're here in Pynt, in our report, we're trying to be very specific. To make one that read the report or want to learn about how to implement better API security program, we know how to focus on real issues rather than like big buckets. So obviously we have few other differences. For example, we included local file access, and we didn't find it in us the 2023. um, but I think those are the main two. And the most important thing here is the way that we really analyze it, and we build obviously the likelihood, the impact of each problem. So we see it's all in all, it's aligned with the overall part of OWASP, but in some major details they are missing, and obviously we are also communicating with them, and we're part of OWASP as well. Anything you want to add on that, Satya?
No, I think you're right. So I think this is a was for any standard is that's a good starting point. I would say that's a guardrail for the where you'd start, right? It's a good example. Just think about CIS for the cloud security, right? So we kind of follow CIS. Not necessarily everything that is written in the CIS that is relevant for your organization because of the way you operate or the way your infrastructures are. So you look into that report and then you choose what is most relevant for your organization. So I think every standard that they work in the same way, right? So you have to just kind of the see the what is actually relevant for your organization. So I mean, any standard, they are not to limit your team's ability, they're just kind of good starting point, and then you kind of know based on your team's maturity or the technical ability, you always kind of evolve and you come up with kind of really good things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
So I see if you're requesting a question from for the crowd asking for more details. So besides the fact that my team in the chat will add more details in writing, let me add few examples. So the first one, the missing authentication, what we found is the most popular, is obviously a problem that everybody thought the other did the authentication, and everybody thought, oh, it's the next application responsibility, and those are really the simple issues. And for the injection, for your question, Silva, um, we see all kind of injection, from code injection to mainly SQL injection, and no SQL injection, which is kind of an SQL injection, on irrational database. So we see all of them because we see them, in the wild a lot. This is why they're the most second popular. In our report, we give the actual, examples and the details. But we see all different kind of injection. All, I would say, like code injection, SQL, no SQL injection. some, whether if it's related to SQL or Postgres or Mongo, etc. Any other question from the crowd on that? So please feel free. Anything you want to add on that, Satya?
No, I think that is a valid question. That no, I think if you can go offline and send those information to the question asked, so I think that would be great.
So in the end, when like no, Silva asked if those injections are exploitable or only based on input payload. So we don't assume that will payload will be exploitable. We use, we actually generate the payloads that create that exploit the actual vulnerability. And in the end, when I say injection, you said exploitable ones, it's really in the end deleting something for the database, adding something to that database, etc. So the answer is yes for your question, Silva. Okay, so I think before we wrap it up, let's talk about no, let's summarize. So we talked briefly about the problem space of API security, and the new threats around that, and then we talked very high level, on our research, how it's different from OWASP. Uh, um, but I think the conclusion doesn't matter how you look on that research, on this research, etc. That API security became a big problem right now, and we need to handle it properly. So with that, I think Satya, maybe also from your side, what will be your main recommendations in order, to actually deal with the API security problem, at least in that part.
Yeah, I mean the shift left. There are a lot of people they're talking about shift left, right? I think there is a merit right now. We should kind of think about shifting the left in terms of the identifying the vulnerabilities. So the reasons are that if you are detecting something during development, it is easy to fix, or takes less time to fix, and also least expensive. And also just kind of think about in terms of the kind of the overload you'll have on the organization to the completing that vulnerability remediation process, that will be less right now. But the problem with the zip left is the scalability, right? So it's not something like it's not easily scalable to kind of you will have the similar kind of the same level of testing methodologies for let's suppose hundred or thousands of the APIs that you have. So I think one of the thing you can be very careful, like you're categorizing your APIs, like your tier one, tier two, or tier three. So starting from your tier one right now, just try to implement those zip left approach for the tier one first, and then just see how effective that is, and then just kind of scaling that. So the I think every time I talk to the team and my peer, the problem is, yeah, we are talking about the zip left, but actually that's difficult to implement, right? Just think about, we asked developer during the cloud evolution, hey, do the network thing, do the system engineering thing. Now we are asking developers to, hey, do the security thing as well, do all this testing, right? And we are implementing our security controls to the pipeline, and they can see the vulnerability and fix uh, as they code, right? So we from the security side just need to make sure that you're providing a really good and robust platform, so that the what we are asking, that is actually easy for them, and so that it will be scalable. So that's kind of my take.
No, I agree with that, Chief Left. If I may add, two things on that. First one, the shift left security is a buzzword, is a trend, but it's really happening. As you just mentioned, back then we had the VPQA reporting to CEO in parallel to engineering, right? Today, the whole quality part really almost fully shifted left to the actual to developer work, the right quality code and testing code before the actual code and the logic. Same with DevOps. We invented the new animal back then, 2008, 9, 10, DevOps. But today, developer is spending like, I don't know, 20% of her time doing DevOps, doing GitHub, doing containers, Docker, microservices, etc. So security is going there. Security is going there, but I think one of the main issues that today, and obviously, today most developers don't have big, very strong intent to security, that we need to allow them to do it as part of the day-to-day work. And this is, just mentioned, not to make them be a security expert, but complement the regular work, uh, um, and add security to that. And another thing I want to add and another thing I want to add is that I think the ideal one, like a good structure that I find that works best in good companies that have good security posture is having an infrastructure team in the R&D. Usually that team, takes a lot of the pain and a lot of the noise from the security team, and once you have an infrastructure team that helps you build your applications in already made frameworks, that makes everything much more secure and much less prone to future issues. So that's a really like structuring that I saw that helps a bit. I would say decreasing the friction between developers and security. So I agree about not just as a high level to shift left, but shift left elegantly. The second thing, I think also from my side, when we started with OWASP, so OWASP is great. OWASP is the best line. There's no second to us today, but I think we should treat it as a best line and not as the one truth Bible. And I think everybody is on the way already doing it, and we should also contribute back to us. If we have feedback, if we have comment, I think they did a lot for the industry, and we should also obviously support them. So with that, Satya, anything you want to add before we finish?
No, thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. And yeah, good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe before I wrap it up, folks, any questions? Okay. So, some call to actions, feel free. First, Satya, I want to say thank you and appreciate your time. Um, Appreciate your time and effort, and mostly, the valuable discussion and the valuable insights. And, thank you for being, a friend and a partner and joining us today. So I appreciate it. And the next step, I think, here, and we can close it by, please, feel free, go download our report, add comments, add feedbacks, add questions, use our product. If you have any questions on that domain or any suggestion, we always here available, either in my LinkedIn, the Python, the email, the company. Please reach out, feel free, download the white paper, um, and we'll see you in the next webinar. So thank you, everyone. Also thank my team for making that happen, and also thanks Sivan. Yeah. So bye everyone. It was a great one, and talk to you soon.
Thank you all.
Well,
Bye.